do you have an idea who he is?
Jeff Bezos?
Yes. I was thinking that you guys would recognize him more than him. This is Sam Walton. He's the founder of Walmart and Sam's Club as well. And the reason you probably remember him more than him is because of obviously this big company here, Amazon, and from their purpose and the reason why I found this so interesting is because I was wondering, why is Amazon more relevant in society than just Walmart or Target, and why is it's such Bezos is a billionaire because of it, and how he created a fortune with this company, and which is why, and I also wanted to know why, obviously compared to say Target and Walmart, but I wanted to see what makes it so different than the normal traditional walk-in superstores. And Amazon has definitely been an innovator in the past decade, and obviously it has many innovations, but a lot of controversies and around its philosophy and culture, which just undermined it in some aspects. So today I'll be talking about the corporate and culture conditions at Amazon, as well as some of the both in the corporate level and labor level. All right. So to start out, we got the corporate hierarchy. It's relatively, it looks something like this, and it's about containing about, let's say, about 10 people. They all directly answer to the big man, Jeff Bezos, and any which is relevant of their philosophy, their whole role and philosophy of Amazon is just be efficient and always deliver results. No matter what, there always needs to be results, regardless of anything. And Bezos believes in the two pizza rule, which means he likes to keep his leading team small enough so that way they can feed a whole conference room with just 2 slices of pizza. So, and obviously with and the conditions as just being a corporate employee is to innovate and bring new ideas, as mentioned before. But sometimes this has not been very great, especially with the people who have been working at a company. This has led to a lot of mixed feelings, as evident in Sandy Smith's 2015 article, Amazon's Corporate Culture, No Middle Ground, which she has stated in that article stress has been a factor at the company, and that a lot of people actually cried at their desk during their time working there. And as was put by former executive John Rossman, he calls it the greatest place he hates to work at. And much like on that sour note, let's transition over to where you may have heard a lot of controversies dealing with the warehouse facility and the workers and the labor level. So obviously the traditional purpose in Amazon's warehouse is to obviously facilitate goods that people buy for their e-commerce website and transporting them to the consumer themselves. And obviously, let's just say, obviously, since the two pizza rolls here with a nice looking pizza, let's just say this is a soggy one right here. And let's just say that working conditions are not great. There's no days off on the holidays. There's mandatory overtime, which leads to a lot of burnout when it leads to the employees that work there. And obviously and Amazon's obviously philosophy is to deliver results, and they have strict quotas, which they want to meet like a deadline on time, which has led to some I guess inhumane things, if you could say about it, because of the whole you may have heard that some workers even urinated in bottles and trash cans just so they don't have, because there's so little time just to use breaks. In fact, one driver, he actually was delivering a package to somebody, and he smashed his hand on the truck door, and he was told by his employees or the company essentially to suck it up and just go for the pain, and that was not. And it took him a while to get medical attention to the hand, so it's not very great. And obviously, there's a lot of other controversies. Obviously, there's high risk of injuries, as stated before, and led by, as reported by Newsweek's Nina Godlewski in her article simply titled "Amazon Working Conditions." which see, obviously the urinating trash cans is space before. They have staged strikes on the company's biggest days, such as Black Friday and Amazon Prime Day, and I had a slide for this. And but most of these were happening in Europe, but there's been strikes, and obviously they wanted to be treated as equals or as just fair, just workers, and in fact they were suffering a lawsuit due to a recently widowed wife that lost her husband due to a heart attack at one of the warehouse facilities because they didn't treat his heart, take him to the hospital after 25 minutes when he initially suffered a heart attack. So, in conclusion to this whole statement today, I talked about the culture and conditions of working at Amazon, both corporate and labor level, and I wanted to tell you guys that next time you order something, consider the steps it brings. Is when you order something, who does the profit go to? Who's profiting off of it? Who's just lost their job because they missed a deadline, or who got injured on a job, or who's generally. Thank you for your time.
If you didn't let Johnny come in, well,
Oh.
Thank you. Okay. Avery, some interesting things that you're focusing on with Amazon, and I like that for this assignment you wanted to narrow in on a corporate culture and research observable behaviors within that corporate culture. And I thought there were some really interesting things that came from your research. This idea that a management team shouldn't be so large that we have to order more than 2 pizzas. How precisely did you word that? Everyone gets two slices for 1 pizza. I like that.
Or actually, it's 2 pies. Actually,
excuse me, 2 pies. Those types of adages that come down from a CEO, that become part of the corporate culture, that rank and file members of the culture know that that's sort of the management philosophy, that can have a really powerful, that could really provide valuable insights into corporate culture that is otherwise invisible. And as communication researchers, we often like to hear, when people talk about meetings, what do people say about meetings? And an organizing metaphor, no meeting should be so large that we can't feed everyone with 2 pieces of pizza. That's interesting. That's really interesting. You compare that to if rank and file members of the company would say something like, we wouldn't have a meeting if we can't have the lobster flown in fresh from Maine. That might be a very different organizing metaphor that is exposed by this type of disclosure. So that is really interesting. You'd also spoke about some things that happen in the factories where people are responding to working conditions, and that revealed some interesting things about nonverbal communication, upward communication, that I think are quite interesting. I want to touch on that a little bit more with my corrective comments. Some other things that are working well in your speech: you did a nice job of preparing visual aids to help us follow the scope of your message, good attention to time, and you seem genuinely interested in your topic. And that's a wonderful gift that you as a speaker offer us. It's easy for us to follow a message if the speaker seems genuinely interested in what he has to say and sharing that with his audience. So that's really good. All right, my corrective comments. My first corrective comment is generally don't lose sight of interesting avenues to explore more about communication. Kind of a similar comment I had to Zach's talk. Sometimes your research might present things that are really interesting, that these discoveries might themselves suggest a more interesting topic to focus on. And you brought up the idea that there's upward communication happening within